All right, then. That is it. Okay. So I'm ready to start the audio portion in three, in two, and one. Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting episode of Aaron's Opinion, the podcast for blind people where we speak about critical issues in the blindness community and all other issues from across the universe and galaxy. Tonight's guest, Aaron Kalinowski, joins us. I got to tell you, I think you might have heard my interview with Preston Gaylor, but I'm not entirely sure how you found me, but I'm very glad and appreciative that you did. So basically, I'll dive in just as I dive into any other interview by asking, who is Aaron Kalinowski? You can tell your life story, all the podcast stuff you've done, all the different interviews you do, and just dig into the conversation.
Of course. So, of course, I'm Aaron Kalinowski. I've been an advocate for people with disabilities since 2009, going on to this point. I pretty much how that came about is I have a bit extensive story myself. For me, when I was born, I was 3.5 months premature when I came around, and in relation with all that, I of course ended up having different conditions alongside cerebral palsy. And one of the things, of course, is that, of course, you already talk about frequently with other guests that are usually either blind or vision impaired. I'm degree vision impaired myself, where one eye is stronger than the other. And it makes day-to-day life not very easy, and that's for sure. And in the summer of, I can't remember what year it was when I started, of course, after advocating since 2009, I eventually went on to do a podcast called Aaron's Journey, which I, of course, for a while, it was kind of over a place where I wanted to go with it. And I eventually reached to a point where I had different taglines and other stuff like that. And eventually I got to that point where I settled on where the final tagline was entertainment and disability, one podcast at a time. And I'll say that's been quite the endeavor. And I've had many pleasurable guests I've had on, especially including in the entertainment industry, such as Kristen Potenza, Stuart Zagnit, Jason Page, other bit, let me think. Noel McNeil and other big names in industry that I've had on over the years. That goes as far back as when I first started. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, that all sounds wonderful, man. And I love the name of your podcast, Aaron's Journey. So cool. I love the fact that you are taking all this time to, create this community where people with disabilities or people from the entertainment field can come up to you and just have a great conversation. I think it's great. And by the way, you're doing a great job. Don't ever let anyone tell you differently. Your podcast is really good. You haven't uploaded in a while, but that's okay. Maybe this conversation tonight will like kick it off for you again and kind of inspire you to, download and start uploading again, because you were producing a lot of really good episodes, man. So I want to go back to something that you said that really spoke to me. You said that, before you got into the podcasting, you were doing a lot of advocacy work. So tell us, what does advocacy mean to you? And exactly what were you doing when you were doing advocacy work in your own life? Tell me about it.
Of course. So for the longest time, I've been doing advocacy in my local community. Through programs such as such as the ARC, such as if you know what the ARC is. I've been a part of that and advocating over there. And there was, of course, the time that I was advocating over social media. And in the beginning when I first did it, it was initially to answer some burning questions people have had when it came to me and when it came to my upbringing and stuff like that. The challenges I had to face, with how my health was growing up, because health wise growing up when I was a kid, I was pretty much one of the fragile ones on the table. Because as I said, I was born 3.5 months premature, and of course I've had cerebral palsy since birth, and of course for a good while in my kid years, of course I had different other conditions such as asthma, pneumonia, and other things like that, and it was long before I did any of this. And that, when I eventually broke out with advocating, it has given me a platform to be able to help others, but then at the same time, be able to provide some value from other people. Various stuff like that. And it's, as I said, it's been quite the endeavor, but let me tell you, people don't realize sometimes, especially if you're somebody that is somebody that's trying to balance work and life. It's not it's not exactly that simple.
Nothing. I know exactly what you mean. Nothing in life is simple, man. That's just how it is. There's always a lot of complications. So, I mean, specifically, what are some advocacy projects that you started to work on? And exactly, if someone says to you, like, can you be my advocate? Like, what does that mean to you? And exactly what specific things will you provide to someone who needs help and needs advocacy? Because it's really important.
Pretty much to answer on that question, I pretty much provide friendship, somebody to talk to, if they need to talk about what's going on in their life, and, be able to, have somebody to speak out on their behalf, or other stuff like that, then, other stuff like that, then I'd of course be willing to. And of course I've had world experience with prior to radio experience, like in between I was doing radio, of course, public speaking, and I of course worked towards getting my certificate for online radio course back I think, far back is 2018, I think, something like that. I think that might have been the latest, but I can usually be found around in my local community. Usually being there for other people if they need, if they need support, somebody to talk to, or if I bring my story forward, to raise more awareness on people with disabilities and different stuff like that. So, and if you're wondering, when it comes to interviewing people in the industry, it's been kind of a second component to my podcast for the longest time. Because I do recall first doing it back when I first started, that I originally had my first celebrity guest, which was a known voice actor, of course, by the name of Mike Pollock. And it's definitely something where in the long run, while in the long run, providing a platform for people with disabilities, while at the same time, covering entertainment and talking with the various people that work in the field, and be able to give them some encouragement if they want to say go into some form of entertainment, such as Broadway theater, acting, voice acting, whatever, any of that type of stuff, that they would be able to get the confidence to be able to reach out and put themselves out there.
Yeah, no, I definitely know what you mean. And it does take a lot of confidence to be a talk show host and podcaster like us. So, how did you actually transition from doing all of this advocacy stuff to doing all the podcasting stuff? What kind of, what really tipped you over the edge and made you want to start Aaron's Journey in the first place?
That's a bit of a good question. So to answer that question, this was during between my middle high school years. I was kind of bored one day during the summer, and I eventually just started it. And of course for a while, even my own family didn't know what I was doing at the time. Even if it meant doing the late sessions, and and people didn't catch on till way later of exactly what I was doing and putting out there. And for the most part, other than people with disabilities, as I said, another vital component was talking with people that work in entertainment and the various different industries that are within entertainment that that maybe someone would want to get into if that's where they're looking to go, say as a hobby or their career, things like that.
Right. Absolutely. So, I mean, it sounds like you're also very interested in entertainment. It sounds like that's one of your areas of interest in addition to advocacy. And apart from that, you're someone that's interested in the entertainment industry. So tell me, how did you develop such a strong interest in the entertainment industry? And then what are some things you've learned along your journey, Aaron's journey, through interviewing these various people around the entertainment industry? And now, what do you know about the entertainment industry? What can you tell me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So of course, from what I have found out from from instance, from various voice actors, from what they told me, they've told me that usually for the most part, that it's usually where they'll usually get an audition and they'll usually get a call, and they'll get a call for an audition. They'll go in and record. And if they have to, redo their lines or whatever, they'll usually do that. And eventually they'll get to a point where they put out the final product, which of course, the entertainment industry, they'd be getting paid. They'd be getting paid the residuals and everything else for the work they put in. And, and eventually, things are going to go quiet for some amount of time until people eventually start discovering their work. And, it for many voice actors, from what I've known from various ones I've talked with, they really tend to appreciate when fans come forward, and give them that critical and give them that critical feedback on their performances and such, which they don't normally get when they're recording in a booth, and stuff like that.
Absolutely. So, can you kind of talk a little bit in a very general sense, I suppose, about some of the entertainment people you've already interviewed and maybe some interesting conversations? I think you've had a lot of interesting conversations. So, what are some of your conversations that you've had in the past with some of these various voice actors and personalities? Tell me about it.
So sure. So as I said, some notable names of people I've had include one of them I will mention is definitely Noel McNeil, a known puppeteer, which you may have heard from the 90s from the 90s children's series Bear in the Big Blue House, and of course, other series such as Eureka's Castle and other stuff like that, and I of course have had the opportunity to speak with Flex Wang, the voice actor behind Dr. Neo Cortex, and I of course have gotten to talk to I've of course gotten to talk to with a couple of the voice actors from June Neutron, as well as one of the producers, and of course the actual creator of June Neutron, John Davis, as well as I've also been able to speak with Jason Page, the singer of the Pokemon theme song. And of course, one of them I mentioned earlier, Stuart Zagnut. Yep, and then I know like one of the actors that did Mario and Luigi, at least, Mark Graw, and various other people in the industry, as I said, in the long run, including Mike Pollock and such. And for a while, I was kind of taking a break from the entertainment side, and I eventually did go back to it for some time, and and then eventually besides people in the industry, I started interviewing other people I knew and such. And, the last I pointing out was back in 2022 was the latest I put anything out. But yeah, it's been quite, and I'd also like to give a mention to a couple friends of mine, DJ Bob Runkle and DJ Talia Flores, two great friends of mine, who are two good friends of mine that have cerebral palsy as well, and do their own podcasts and shows and stuff like that as well. But yeah, because one of them, one of my good friends, DJ Bob Runkle, he pretty much does partly similar to what does where we do partly similar in terms of the work we do, when it came to the entertainment side, at least. And he of course told me that of course I know from knowing him for the longest time that didn't always, speak over him, cerebral palsy and everything else. And eventually it became a sort of a dialogue between him and whatever celebrity guest that he would speak with. And, it would get to that point where, having an active dialogue and all the other stuff. And, it would get to that point where he's been able to talk with, writers, producers and such, for different shows, not just including children's entertainment, but other forms of entertainment and such. And I gotta say, in certain ways, also there are certain times where I just when I do look on his work and I'm like, you do a better job than I do. Not in the mean way, but you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. Yeah, it's pretty cool when you sit down with all these people and you look back at your past episodes and you wonder, wow, where did all these people come from? I actually had that opportunity to speak to them. It is really cool, man. Absolutely, yeah. You mentioned some of the various series, various TV shows, the various personalities. Certainly I watched some of those things, not all of those things. I remember some of those names, but not all of those names. But that's really fascinating. I mean, how did you get in touch with all of these various voice actors? Many of them, certainly they do not take podcasting lightly, nor do you or I. How did you, if you don't mind me asking, how did you talk them into coming to your show? That can be quite a conversation to get some of these people to come to a podcast. What did you say?
Pretty much I had the best way I can describe it is it's pretty much a situation where I would usually have it to where I have it laid out to where where of course I'd say like in a message hi, of course, introduce myself, of course, I'll tell them that I'm a fan, fan of their work. And, I'd be asked if they be interested, through either social media or by email. And, and for the most part, when possible, they were usually able to get back to me, but not usually right away. But in the long run, I've been fortunate with the amount of guests the amount of people in the industry that I've been able to reach over the years.
What did you learn if you were to look back and if you were to go back into your archive, whether it be on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever it is, but if you were to go back and listen to some of these episodes, what do you think you would learn, in the future? And what do you think people will learn from listening to these great conversations you've had?
Definitely one of the things would be persevering, even if you're not finding degrees success, because I will be honest, there was points during the whole podcast phase and everything that it was up and down for some time. And and especially when I went for the one time when I went for a psychotic break, it of course sent me back real good for a while. And it's some for sure. So part of it, what I would say is, if you're going to be getting into this type of endeavor, you need to be able to have a work and life balance, and and at the same time be able to be able to take handle of your mental health, because it can wear you out real good after after doing it for so long.
Absolutely, man. You're definitely right. It's not your imagination. Podcasting is exactly the way that I can describe it to you, and you would describe it the same. It's exactly what you see when you go to your stats. I don't know who you use for your hosting, but I go with Spreaker anyway. Though, with on the stats how you can see your downloads and plays, and you see the line graph where it shows ups and downs and ups and downs. And some weeks you get a lot of downloads, other weeks you get less. It's all a roller coaster, and that's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
and there's
it's
nothing personal, and it's really nothing personal to either one of us. But I don't think there's rhyme or reason to how certain days the podcast performs really well, and all of a sudden, oh my God, 100 plays one day and 2 plays the next. I don't think there is rhyme or reason. I think that's just how it is. What do you think?
Yeah, I can kind of agree. I mean, it can honestly, especially if you're looking to make money out of it, it's not an easy endeavor to take. Because at one point I tried to do monetization myself, and let me tell you, it's not as simple as it looks.
It's not,
especially if you're not getting a constant flow.
Yeah, it's very tricky. I mean, I've been podcasting since 2020. So I started this during the pandemic, and it's been a very arduous process. There's nothing really easy about it except for actually having the conversations, but all the other things, from figuring out who my audience is to kind of developing the flavor of the show over time, these things take a really long time. Nothing's going to come easily. Definitely not.
Yeah. Because in the long run, I can attest to that, because it's definitely something, because in the long run, I mean, because there's that, and being able to keep consistent, and keeping a regular flow of people that you'd be speaking with, either on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or so basis, and being able to put out a regular flow of content, which also becomes the trickiest part of it, on top of not just talking with other people, because let me tell you, especially after talking with people for some amount of time, it drains you real good after a while.
I think you're right. You're absolutely right. And the other trick to it all is that it's hard. It's important to develop a content flow of understanding when you want to release stuff. And then what I've found that I'm doing now that's helpful here at Aaron's Opinion is we're just releasing more and more things more frequently. And I'm worrying a lot less about the days and times. And I'm just saying, okay, today I'll upload one. Tomorrow I'll skip. Today I'll upload, go back and forth, and just try to sprinkle some episodes throughout the week. And just whoever hops on, and whoever clicks in and listens. I'm not sure that there is rhyme or reason. I think, though, that the more you and I focus on developing content over a period of time that people want, then people will come back to it, and they'll go through the archive, and they'll see everything else. And but these things take a very long time. They definitely do. Yeah. Are you still in touch with were you ever able to develop a professional relationship with any of these voice actors or entertainment people?
In the professional sense, like when it comes to work wise, no. But with some of them, I have been able to maintain friendships with some of them that I've talked to over the years, such as such as Jason Page, who I'm very close friends with, as I said.
Super cool. Super.
Yeah.
That's so that, I mean,
Yeah,
that is
and,
really, I mean, that's
yeah,
really
and
incredible. That's really,
yeah.
I mean, that's something to be
Yeah,
proud of forever.
I can actually, if you want, I can actually go into that story a little bit on how we met. So this goes as far back
Go
as,
into it. Sure, tell me. Uh-huh.
So when it came to me and Jason meeting, this goes as far back as, let me think, 2016. This was before the whole Pokemon Go craze started, where
Okay, hold on, Aaron. Slow down just a little bit. So this was before the whole what and craze? I didn't catch it. The what and what craze started?
like it was when we met, it was before the Pokemon Go craze started.
What does that mean? What do those words mean?
Well, you remember when the mobile game Pokemon Go came out, right?
Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right. And just to jog my memory, because I don't quite know who it is. I should know them, but I don't know quite understand. So you're saying this person's name is Jason Page, and and did you say that they're the writer of the Jimmy Neutron theme song?
No.
Oh.
They were the singer of the English Pokemon theme song. From when the anime was first dubbed.
Oh, okay. So Jason Page is the singer on the Pokemon theme song.
Yes.
Oh, got it.
And
got it.
Yeah,
okay.
And his voice is featured on the To Be Master soundtrack.
Right. And understood. And by the way, please for you at home, and everyone around the world, please forgive my ignorance. I'm sorry I was confused. I simply didn't know. I simply just didn't understand. And I'm not, I don't follow all the entertainment people like you. So please forgive that. And thank you for your understanding that I was so confused about who it was. But I also was not the biggest Pokemon fan either. But okay, so now that I understand who it is, so go ahead. So how did this whole friendship and relationship start with Jason Page go?
So this goes, as I said, within the year before the craze started. I initially reached out to him through his Facebook page, and of course eventually at some point he got back to me when I asked him if he would be willing to do an interview, and he was of course like sure. And of course I was, in the long run, I was one of the first set of people that one of the first people that he spoke to before he came out publicly to the media about who he is and what he has done. And it's been quite the honor to getting to know him, because he is one talented dude. I mean, he is freaking talented. You'd have to see his other work. He's still got it. All these years later.
Okay. He's still got it, huh? All right. Well, cool, man. Well, cool. Well, we'll have to talk off air about this, but it sounds like you might be able to help me get in touch with some of these people, man. I mean, if you speak so highly of these people, sounds like Aaron's opinion might get to sit down with some of these people someday. You never know, stranger things have happened, right? Right.
I know.
I mean, after all, now that I know you, man, it sounds like I will be able to get in touch with some of these people. So what else can you tell me about this really talented dude, as you call him, this really talented dude, this Jason Page guy? What else? So then you reached out to him, and then what happened over time? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Over time, especially after the interview, we've gotten to know each other, and we eventually developed a close friendship, and I've been able to be able to check with him, check in how he's doing, keep up with his work, and and to be able to be an active supporter for him, even if I'm not able to be, even if I'm not able to be there for, even if I'm not able to be there for the various events it goes out to.
I see. I see. That's really cool. And then did you simply just ask him, "Hey, Mr. Page, will you come to my podcast?" I mean, I'm just purely curious, like how the interaction went and like how it got to him finding out about your content and actually coming to your show. So how did that all, boil down to him coming to your podcast? It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. To answer that, of course, at one point, I eventually, before I contacted him, I was on the search, of course, to figure out who he was, and I, of course, I tracked down his name, and of course, I checked, for social media, and I, of course, found his Facebook page, which I contacted through there, and I kind of said something like on this page, I'm a big fan of your work, and I was wondering if you'd be willing to talk with me, about you began your career, and so forth, and he eventually got back to me, and he of course agreed, and this was the one day, I believe, between I believe either that same year or the year after, we eventually made the arrangements, and we of course did the interview, which of course we talked about his career and how he got started, and of course, of course, in the long run, how he became, the performer that he is, today.
That's really that's really fascinating. That's so good. Yeah, yeah. So do you still keep in touch with him today once in a while? Do you still follow his work? And
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
really
and
good. Yeah.
because in the long run, I mean, because in the long run with him, may not everybody realizes, but he's been able to work with some of the greats and in the industry back then, such as Michael
Absolutely.
Jackson,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
which is
Absolutely.
which is quite, which is which is quite the honor if you ask me.
Well, I agree. I agree, man. I agree. Super cool. Super cool. And well, that is really wonderful. How has your podcast, and by the way, I must compliment you. And be honest, I had never heard of your podcast before, but I'm really glad I know of it. Um, how has your podcast been perceived and received by the public? What are some, what have been the variety of reactions you've received?
In terms of the reactions, I would, in terms of reactions, I know people have told me that I was strong, informative, and other various things like that, and 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 in the long run, I'd say for myself personally, helpful in a way that, for people that may have disability and still would want to do something in entertainment, that they could still do it. Despite the challenges.
Right, right. Well, I mean, I think that's really important because there's a lot of people around our community, Aaron, who are blind or have cerebral palsy, or who have other abilities and other disabilities. And they really need, you need to keep podcasting. I need to keep podcasting. We need to keep podcasting, and we will, because people really need this content. People really need to hear these stories. People really need to hear these stories. Here, let's let in Preston. Preston wants to sit in the audience. Let's definitely let him in. Okay. There he is. Anyway, but yeah, definitely people need these stories, man, and people need us to keep providing this content because people need to know that people with disabilities can be podcasters and can produce great content like us. So, I mean, I just really appreciate you for taking all this time to contact all these people and have these great conversations. Oh, I thought a thought bubble just popped up in my mind. Have you sat down with I got a great guest for you to interview, Aaron. Have you sat down with Maria Pendolino?
Maria Pendolina, no, I haven't.
Do you know who she
yes.
is?
Not on top of my head.
Okay. You're definitely going to love sitting down with her. She is a professional. I mean, she's done it all. She's been in movies. She's been in some Bollywood. She's been in a couple Bollywood movies. She's been in a couple TV shows on Lifetime. She's even been a reenactment actress on the National Geographic show Locked Up Abroad. She's been a voice actress. She's acted on Broadway before, I think. And if she's not doing all of those things, she is a really, really nice lady and a really fascinating person who would love probably, I mean, I'm probably putting words in her mouth, but I would be more than happy tomorrow or at a later date to send you over, to shoot you over her Instagram. She is an absolutely brilliant person to talk to. She's had some amazing experiences in TV and acting and entertainment. And if she hasn't had those experiences, she also, I believe she's in a wheelchair and she has arthritis. And, so she's sighted, but she also has her own, different abilities and things like that. And she would be, I generally don't do this often. I generally don't say someone would love to talk to you. And, I'm not trying to put words in her mouth, but you would definitely be able to reach out to her and say, hey, here's what I do. And you can say, hey, plus Aaron Richmond from Aaron's Opinion thinks that I should talk to you and that you would be a great person to have on my show. She is a fascinating lady and just a great person, just a great talk. She really is. And she can do, just like you like to hear, all these different accents, and she's voiced a couple of video games. So I'm kind of surprised you haven't interviewed Maria Pendolino, but she's a character for sure in more ways than one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, to be honest, like,
yeah,
I'm so, like, to be honest, I mean, when I think about it, I'm surprised I'm surprised I've never considered her.
Well, but I mean, when I said her name, did you know who she was? Because she's a big deal in the acting industry. She's a pretty big deal in voice acting and movies and things like that. Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, the thing was until you mentioned, I'm like, oh, because in the long run, because in the long run, it's surprisingly, she wasn't one that I initially considered, but I mean, I'm just wondering if you had you ever heard the name before, though, or was that the first time you've heard of her? Probably the first time, I think.
Interesting, because she's done it all. I really enjoyed that talk, and it was that conversation was a lot of fun. We'll definitely get in touch off air. I'll send you over her Instagram and things like that. But I would tell you, because quite frankly, I would tell most guests that this is going to sound weird, but it'll make sense in a second. I would tell most people don't reach out to certain people because there's a very specific way that you have to reach out to certain people. But if you, Aaron, can sit down with the singer from the Pokemon theme song, I think you've qualified to get to talk to. I think you passed the qualification to talk to Maria Pendolino. I think she'll talk to you once she hears about all the other characters you've sat down with over the years and things like that. Or I don't know. I do know that she's overbooked and very busy. So, that could go either way. She might tell you, yeah, Aaron, I can, or she might say, no, I'm really too busy with other projects. So I don't know. She's definitely worth the email, definitely worth the sending her. She's definitely worth sliding into her DM and seeing what she can do. But once she hears about the different things you're doing in the industry, I think she would love to, not try to put words in her mouth, my famous last words, but I think she would love to talk to you, probably. Yeah. 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 Anyway,
Yeah.
well, but that's really good. Who are some of your other people, man, that you really want to sit down with and that you would love to have an interview with? What do you think?
That's, I mean, yeah, that's a bit of a tough question, actually. To tell you the truth, I know, I know Sunvisor. I know Sunvisor in terms of somebody that I know Sunvisor in terms of somebody that I have, that I've initially tried to go for. I've initially tried to, try to do an interview with, but of course, eventually was one of them that was scrapped.
That happens. It's okay. That
Yeah,
happens along the way. Not every
yeah,
interview works out, man. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know at one point before I had to start over, I initially at one point had contact with the creator of Doug, Nickelodeon's Doug.
Wow. Yeah, that show, I do that show. You know what is interesting about that show, and I'm not going to get into too big of a discussion because I'm not an expert. I do know that show garnered a lot of that was a very controversial show, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, and from what I've heard, the creator has said that they're planning to work on another series at some point.
Right.
After all these years, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's really fascinating. So, okay, but who are some other people that you would love to sit down with in the industry and have a discussion with? Who do you think?
Let's see. That's as I said, that's a bit of a tough one. In terms of others I would think of, maybe example of one that I wouldn't get my hopes up too much, but I don't know, maybe William Shatner.
Who is the creator of?
Well, he's not exactly a creator. He's a known he's a known actor and such. From the various TV shows like where he's done various on camera work, and he's acted of course he's acted in like Star Trek, and
okay.
Whole bunch of other things that he's done. Which two shows that I know him for is two reality ones he done, which were Weird or What and Rescue 911.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that is definitely very, very interesting. Yeah. That is super cool, man. So it sounds like, what I'm really absorbing from your love for podcasting and content creation is that you really like to have conversations about the entertainment industry. Your fascination is the entertainment industry, right? That's really what it seems like to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the thing is, this pretty much the part of the reason for that is, for me, it goes as far back as my younger years, from when I was a kid and when I was, in a fragile health state. And, with much of the time that I spent, I was pretty much watching various movies, TV shows, and various things like that. And of course, of course, trying to focus on trying to survive.
Right.
For
Sure.
for a good set of years.
Hmm.
And so in the long run, so in the long run, it's become essential part of my life, essentially, even to this day. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
outside of just, advocating for people with disabilities and such.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. It can give, it can give you a great sense of calm and it can be very calming for you to watch some of these great entertainers entertain you on the screen, whether it's a cartoon, a live action thing, or a TV show, a puppet, whatever their art form is, it can be very soothing and very entertaining for you to be able to sit back and watch them perform, right? I completely understand that. It's very touching and very soothing for me as well when I listen to other great podcasters like you and others around the industry. It gives me such a great sense of pride to know that there are other people who are more successful than me, who are producing great stuff as well. And that's so encouraging to me when I hear great podcasters around the industry who I look up to and are doing great stuff. It's so encouraging. It really is. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So good. So good. So, you know, wow. You really had, you really had a lot. We really had a lot to say this evening, and you did an excellent job, man, as I knew you would. And you've been super good, super flexible, and super, just another great friend here, in, here at Aaron's Opinion. So you are forever part of the Aaron's Opinion family, man. So
Yep.
I'm sure that you have some questions for things that you want to really know about Aaron Richmond. After all, you reached out to me, which is really inspirational for me to know that people are finding out about me and reaching out. So you reached out to me. You're pretty good at that reaching out thing, man. You're good at it, man. So you reached out to me. So what do you really want to know about me? By the way, Preston, you can, I think it's kind of cool, Preston, if you want, man, you can type a question that you want answered to, if you want. But Aaron, what do you think? What are some things that you want to talk to me about, and what are some things that you want to ask me?
Of course. In the long run, so one of the things I definitely want to ask you is um, what at what point in your life, did you get to a point where you're where you thought to yourself, I want to get into this creative endeavor, and be able to speak with other people with with different disabilities, and other types of people and such, and and of course how how you grew up has become a vital part of what you do.
Okay. Well, thank you for asking. Could you please rephrase the question a little bit? Could you restructure the question a little bit for me?
Yeah. So in the long run for you, so in the long run, to put it this way for you, what at what point, like when when did you have your moment of where you thought, I would want to get into this creative endeavor, and be able to
Uh-huh.
use my experiences growing up,
Okay.
to be able to help other people.
Yeah. So like basically like what tipped, what was what was the flame under my ass that really tipped me over, and really basically what was the, what really kicked my ass into gear is what you really want to know. I was during Yeah, there you go. Okay, here, so go ahead. Preston wants to know, and he's asking you, Aaron, who's been your favorite person to interview? And then I'll answer your question. Go ahead.
Yeah. So to answer that question, this one's a kind of bit of a toss.
No, it's not. We can't have a toss. There's no toss about favorites.
Um,
I'm just
well,
kidding around. Can you maybe narrow it down to one?
If it had to be one, um, like, if it had to be one, it would definitely be Christian Potenza. A voice actor who's of course has done, of course is one of the roles he's known for is Chris McLean from Total Drama Island, which if you've seen any if you've seen any game shows that are like Survival or whatever, then you'd have a sort of idea what the show is. And
Okay.
he's
Well, that's great.
he was in the long run when we were in the whole stage of the interview, he was such a character. I mean, like he just went with it, like like, you know what I mean? Like,
I know. Well, you know what? I know what you mean, Aaron. Has anyone told you that you're a character? You have a personality too, man. You're a character too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I try to be.
That's very admirable. You try to be, so you accept your characterness. You try to be a character. Well, you don't have to try too hard. You're already a great character, man. Really. Back to my question that you asked. I was sitting at home during the pandemic, and I was doing a lot of teaching, and because that's my day job, I'm a teacher online. Now, thanks to God, technically speaking, I am a professional podcaster now, but I wasn't then. Anyway, though, I was listening to a lot of podcasts around the blindness community, and I just felt that they weren't really open to my opinions about things. They didn't want to listen to guests, in my opinion, and they didn't really want to listen to my opinion. Well, in case you haven't noticed, I love to talk to people, and I love to express my opinion, whether you agree with it or not. So you see, I created Aaron's Opinion to give you the chance to share your opinion and your knowledge with the world. I don't know specifically what day it was. It was probably the spring of 2020 at the height of the pandemic. And I was just sitting on my bed and, back at home. At that point, I was living in Maryland in my life and sitting around and basically needing something to do. And I know that I'm a great speaker, and I just love to talk to people. Talking and recording stuff makes me happy, So that's how I got into it. And it's been an emotional roller coaster. There's been ups and downs and lefts and rights. And, if I was driving a car, I would tell you, Aaron, I took a couple, I made a left-hand turn where there wasn't a left-hand turn to make. But the fact is, we got here where we are today because we both love podcasting and connecting with people, and your love for people and your personality. You just have a very infectious personality that's just really amicable. I'm also a French speaker now. I forgot the word in English now. Amicable. That's the word in English. Very, 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 very. You have a very useful personality for podcasting. You were just about to ask it. You were just about to ask, Aaron, have you ever recorded an episode in your French language? Well, as a matter of fact, I have. Anyway, hope that answers all of your questions, man. And what else do you want to know?
So in the long run, I was kind of wondering for you, man. For you, what was life for you like growing up?
Difficult. I've had a very isolating life, a very difficult life. I grew up in a very small community near Washington, D.C., and I've really had to make my own way in life. I've had to be my own individual, just like you. I've had to develop my own character. I'm my own character in my own TV show, in my own persona, but that's who I am. And there are many hard days in my life, just like there are in yours. And there's many days where I say, that kind of upset me a little bit, or that was a little hard, or, I wish that it hadn't happened that way. But then again, that's life. Life happened that way. We look around the world, Aaron, and we see all these problems, right? We see all these things that have gone wrong. We ask ourselves, well, look at all these problems. This happened, that happened. Look at all the stuff. Look at all the damage we've done around the world. And I look at the world and I say, well, we did it. So now it's up to me to create audio content to give you knowledge and inspiration. And if nothing else, to help you have a better day, to help you to have peace in your life. That's at least my hope for you and for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool, man.
Can definitely go with you on that one.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, as in relation to what you were saying, I can in a way relate to you because my early life was pretty much isolating, and I was pretty much instinctively in survival mode because of my health from when I was a kid, and I did not really have much in terms of friends and such, that I could come to or whatever, when I was younger. And I'll be honest, there have been times where there have been times I've been at my lowest, because the worst I can recall for me personally, I'm not going to go into detail too much, but when it comes to mental health, the reason I say it's so important is because I've already been in a situation before where back in, I would say, 2020, I of course went for a psychotic break, and eventually there was a point where I was psychiatrically insane, and had all these strange thoughts and everything else, and especially after that episode, I try not to do too much, and stress myself out, because once it gets to that point, then that the people close to you are going to be in for one hell of a roller coaster.
Yeah. Well, that's how life goes, man. I'm sorry you went through it, but that's life, and you're doing great now with your show and things like that. And you did a wonderful job here. So you'll keep producing great episodes. I'm sure of it. And I hope that this conversation has given you a burst of inspiration to start, creating more stuff again and doing more interviews and reaching out to more people and things like that. Maybe, who knows, maybe you'll reach out to this Maria lady and that'll be the next, the interview that'll kind of kick it off for you again and kind of get your momentum going again. Who knows,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've had a wonderful discussion. I thank you very, very much for joining us this evening. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot of great friends around the community who will also enjoy this. And so, Aaron, if someone wants to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
Okay, so pretty much if they would want to reach me, they can find me on Facebook and Twitter. Of course, which of course at this point I mainly have my personal account for Facebook, and then of course I have my Twitter, and then I know for Instagram I'll have to get that set up. Because the thing is because I wasn't originally going to bring this up, but there was a point I was hacked before, so
Oh my.
so that's part of how I had to,
Oh, geez.
outside the podcast itself,
Mhm. Mhm.
I had to start from scratch,
Mhm.
and so it's definitely something.
That's something. Well, that's really good. That's really, really good. And yeah, so I mean, guys, click the link in the description. And Aaron, you'll send me over a good description with all your social media links, and people will get in touch with you. All right. All
Yep.
right. Well, sounds really good. Um, anyway, all of that is fine. I want to say thank you very much for joining us this evening on the audio. And do you know how I end an episode here at Aaron's Opinion?
Uh,
That's
uh,
that's okay.
not 100% top of my head.
That's fine. That's fine. We say keep podcasting. Keep podcasting. Stay safe out there. We'll see you next time. Help one person today. Help 1 million people tomorrow. For those of you who have still survived the interview on YouTube, for the people who are still there on YouTube, thank you for joining us this evening. We're very glad to have you. Like I said, like the video, comment below, share it, subscribe it, tickle the bell notification to know when we go live next on here at Aaron's Opinion. Aaron from Aaron's Journey Podcast, thank you for joining us. We'll be in touch soon.
Of course, man. My pleasure.
Yeah. And you're forever part of Aaron's Opinion. You're forever part of my family here at Aaron's Opinion, man. So have a very good night. We'll be in touch in a bit here. But take care of yourself, and we'll be back soon. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
Yep.
Help one person today. Help
Yep.
1 million.
You too, man.
You're very welcome. Help one person today. Help 1 million